Dear viewers, in November 2021, comedian Veer Das stood on stage at the Kennedy Center in Washington DC and dropped a monologue that would split India down the middle. His 7-minute piece, I Come From Two Indias, wasn't just comedy. It was a mirror, a cracked mirror. He spoke of contradictions, of a country that worships women in temples but fails them on the streets, of a country that prides itself on feeding the world yet drives tractors over the very farmers who grow that food. The performance went viral and so did the outrage. There were police complaints, calls for his arrest, accusations of defaming the nation. But at the same time, there were cheers from those who said he's just telling the truth we don't want to hear. Now, 4 years later, Veer Das' Two Indias feels less like satire and more like a prophecy. Because if you look around today, you will see the two Indias standing in line, literally. On one side, outside the Apple store in Mumbai's Bandra Kurla complex, you have hundreds of people camping overnight, eager to get their hands on the new iPhone 17. They push, shove, even throw punches just to be first in line. A phone priced anywhere between Rs 82,000 and Rs 2.3 lakh. A single device worth months, sometimes years of income for the average Indian worker. On the other side, in Basti district of Uttar Pradesh, you have farmers queuing up since dawn, not for luxury gadgets but for something as basic as fertilizer. They wait under the sun for hours, they cry, they beg. They sometimes get lathi-charge when tempers flare, and many of them go home empty-handed. This is not metaphor. This is not exaggeration. This is India in 2025. Two Indias, one that spends, one that survives. And that's what we are unpacking today on Honest Take with me, Tejas. Before we dive in, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and let's talk about the country we live in. Unfiltered, uncomfortable, and unapologetic. Let's rewind to Veer Das for a second. What he did at the Kennedy Center wasn't new. Artists have always held up mirrors to society, but his choice of words cut deep because they revealed a duality we all recognize but prefer to ignore. I come from two Indias, that line echoed across living rooms, WhatsApp forwards, and primetime shouting matches. Some called it courageous, others called it anti-national. But strip away the noise and you are left with a simple fact. Contradictions define us. The rich and the poor don't just live different lives here. They live in different worlds altogether. The farmer and the techie, the villager and the urban consumer, the man who can blow a lakh on a phone and the man who can't get a bag of urea. These aren't just differences, they are gaps wide enough to swallow entire generations. And that brings us to the scenes of September 19, 2025. Picture this, it's 5 AM in Mumbai's Bandra Kurla complex. The city is barely awake, but the Apple store looks like a rock concert venue. Hundreds of people are standing in line, some since the previous night. They have come from Ahmedabad, Surat, even Bengaluru. They have brought snacks, mats and camping gear. Why? For a phone. The iPhone 17, sleeker, faster, shinier with its much-hyped A19 Bionic chip and a new color variant that people claim they have been waiting 6 months to buy. The buzz is electric, but as the clock ticks closer to the opening time, the patience thins. Suddenly, a man cuts into the line, another confronts him. Shoving begins. Within seconds, it's chaos. Feasts fly, people get dragged out by security. By noon, the videos are viral. Grown adults fighting in public over who gets to spend over a lakh first. Let that sink in. People brawling for the right to part for a phone that costs over a lakh. A phone that costs 40% of India's annual per capita income. A phone that requires the average Indian worker to work 160 days straight, without food, without rent, without spending a rupee to afford. And yet, here we are. Now shift the scenes from Mumbai's glass towers to Basti district in Uttar Pradesh. Same country, but a world apart. It's August 29, 2025. The Gopinathpur Cooperative Society in Parshurampur block is supposed to distribute fertilizer. Hundreds of farmers arrive before dawn. Among them is 68-year-old Meghnad Gupta from Nathpur Pandey village. He waits and waits. Hours go by. The queue barely moves. When a reporter asks him how long he has been standing, his face crumbles. Tears roll down his cheeks. He can't even get the words out. His cry isn't just about waiting that day. It's about decades of being neglected, about sowing seeds with hope and harvesting despair. The video of Meghnad goes viral too. But unlike the iPhone fight, it doesn't trend with hashtags of excitement. It trends with shame, with anger, because the government insists there is no shortage of fertilizer. But here are hundreds of farmers standing in queues, returning empty-handed, or worse, forced to buy from black markets at double the price. Rupees 267 a bag at the cooperative society, rupees 500 in the black market. That's the math of desperation. And when tempers flare, the state doesn't send more fertilizer. It sends lathis. In Ayodhya, Barabanki, Balrampur, police swing sticks at farmers asking for what is rightfully theirs. So here is the question. Why are the people who feed us treated as beggars while the people who buy gadgets are treated as VIPs? The contrast is brutal. On one side, buyers proudly spending rupees 2.3 lakh on a phone. On the other, farmers unable to get fertilizer worth a few hundred rupees. This isn't anecdotal, it is structural. The top 10% of India owns nearly 75% of the wealth. The bottom 60%, more than half of the country, owns less than 5%. Think about that. One India is climbing the glass escalators of malls, tapping cards and buying luxury goods on EMIs. Another India is selling jewelry to pay hospital bills, pulling kids out of school to save fees, and standing in endless queues for ration and fertilizer. Globally, Apple is a status symbol. In India, it's a dividing line. The iPhone Affordability Index shows it all. In Luxembourg and Switzerland, an average worker needs 3 days' wages to buy the latest iPhone. In India, more than 4 months, and yet demand doesn't stop. Because the India of aspiration is driven by a mix of FOMO, credit, and the desire to show you have made it. Meanwhile, the India of survival is stuck in a loop. The farmer grows the food, the government promises subsidies, middlemen and black marketers swallow them. The farmer gets the blame when prices rise, and every year stories of suicides trickle in from villages we never visit. Put the two videos together, the fight outside Apple BKC and the tears outside the cooperative society in Basti, and you don't need a Veer Das monologue. The pictures speak for themselves. One India has the luxury to argue about iPhone color variants. The other India can't argue about fertilizer because the police baton speaks louder. One India fights to be first in line for consumption. The other India fights just to stay alive. Veer Das said, "I come from an India that," and filled in the blanks. 4 years later, the blanks fill themselves. Some might say, so what? People should be free to spend their money as they wish. If someone can afford an iPhone, let them buy it. True, but the story isn't about individual choice. It is about collective failure. The farmer's tears aren't his alone. They are a symbol of policies that fail to reach the ground, of a system where headlines speak of record harvests, but the farmer never sees the reward, of governments that spend crores on infrastructure for malls and stores, but can't ensure timely fertilizer delivery. And the iPhone frenzy isn't about gadgets. It's about what we celebrate. We celebrate consumption more than production. We cheer for Apple launches but yawn at farmers' protests. We romanticize the startup kid buying his first luxury phone but ignore the farmer selling his last goat to buy seeds. Two Indias, one in queues for luxury, one in queues for necessity. One flaunting, one weeping, both existing side by side yet miles apart. Veer Das was mocked, attacked, even vilified for saying this, but look around. He did not create the two Indias. He just described them. The rest is unfolding in front of us every day. The question is, how long can a nation function like this, with one foot in Silicon Valley and the other stuck in drought-hit village? How long before the cracks widen into chasms too deep to bridge? That's not satire, that is survival, and that is today's honesty.